Hey guys, welcome to episode number 17 of the Happy Knitting Podcast. I'm Julia and I'm coming to you from Germany today. That sounds like I usually don't come to you from Germany. I am in Germany. I'm kind of all over the place and a little bit crazy today, so I hope you guys will still stick with me because I have a lot of stuff to talk about today. I'll talk about Knit Along, I want to talk about December, then I have a few FOs. I have some works in progress, I have some sewing, I have some spinning, and then I finally want to record a segment about spinning in general because I've been getting a lot of questions about that, so I want to talk about how I started spinning and give you the very basics of spinning. Then I have a tiny bit of acquisitions and life in general. So first of all, thank you so much for watching, whether you're returning or whether you're checking me out for the first time. Don't be thrown off by today's possible craziness. I don't know what's going on today, I just cannot speak or order my thoughts or anything else. But yeah. Let me just have some tea. So very quickly, we still have the challenge Knit Along going on, which is actually a craft along, so you can spin, you can sew, you can dye yarn, you can do whatever you want. It has to be a challenge of some sort for you, so that is a pretty open description, I guess. So whatever constitutes a challenge for you is fine to put into the FO thread. We have over 30 entries right now, and we have 2 prizes here and another one coming in the mail, which last week I said I'll see if I'll put it in the shop. I'll see if I'll use that for the challenge cal or for a feature cal, but if you guys keep on posting your finished objects, I think I will also have a 3rd prize. So yeah. That's the challenge cal. It goes until the end of the year, so you still have some time to finish your objects or even do small new projects. And we have a FO thread as well as a shadow thread in the Ravelry group, which is the Happy Knitting Podcast group. Then last week or 2 weeks ago, I started the thing called December, which essentially means that in December I will not be buying yarn, but instead using the beautiful stash yarn that I have. And quite a few people were interested in that, so we also have a thread in the Ravelry group for that. And today is the 14th of December, and I'm very proud to announce that I have not been buying any yarn. Yay! So I'm very proud of that. I may have been looking at yarn, but I didn't buy any, so that's pretty good. The sad news is that I thought I was saving lots of money, and then I checked my account yesterday to find out that I hadn't been, and I think I've just been spending the money elsewhere, mostly on Christmas presents. So yeah, that's December. Come and join if you want to talk to us about that as well. I think this is really fun. Now, finished objects. I have a few. And the first one, I kind of want to jump up and down and say ta-da, but I will try to be calm. This is my boyfriend's sweater, and it is finished. So last week I had one sleeve done, and the other one I think I was just at the cuff. So as you can see, now the sweater has 2 sleeves. Also the sleeves have been attached to the sweater, which is always a bonus. And I have done the neckband. Again, I use a twisted rib, even though the pattern says to not just do normal rib. And I should probably tell you what pattern this is. This is a pattern by Drops Design, so it's a free pattern. It is called Twilight. And the yarn is also by Drops. It is the recommended yarn. It is Drops Lima in the colorway 519. I have altered the pattern a little bit. All of these changes you can find on my project page. I've been pretty detailed about that, mostly because I needed to write down stuff for myself in order to make sure I did the second sleeve exactly like the first one. So the notes are as much for me as they are for you guys. But yeah, I think it looks really nice. I guess there's no rib point showing you the back, but this is what it looks like. My boyfriend has been wearing it, that's why it's not perfect anymore. But I'm really glad that he's been wearing it. So I got him to try it on, but I hadn't woven in any of the ends because I was fairly sure I would have to do or redo the neckline. And he tried it on, and he doesn't get very enthusiastic about knitwear, so when he said, "Oh yeah, it's good," I was pretty happy. Because I've been worried that it's too small, so I blocked it out quite a lot, maybe even too much. So if any, it was a bit too big on the shoulders, so I think if I reblock it, that'll be fine. And the sleeves are nice and long, which I always like they go easily up to like his hand, and you can pull them down a bit. And then the biggest compliment was that I told him to, take it off so I can sew in the ends and finish it. And my dear boyfriend was like, "No, I want to keep it on. I want to keep wearing it. It's so comfy." So I think that made me really happy, and that proved that I think the whole sweater thing was a success. So I did eventually weave in the ends, and we went out for coffee, and he was wearing his new jumper, and it looked really nice on him. So I am over the moon. I'm so relieved, and I am also very glad not to have to be knitting on this anymore, because I am so sick of this sweater. But yeah, I think it's turned out really nicely, like definitely exceeded my expectations. So yeah, that's my boyfriend's sweater. It's been knit on 3.5mm needles. I really like the yarn. I don't want to be knitting with it again because I'm just so sick of it, but it is a virgin wool alpaca blend. I'm not sure if you can see, but it has a halo going. Yeah, you can see like little hairs of alpaca everywhere. So it looks kind of rustic and perfect for a man, but it is so soft. It is really soft and warm, and it made a really nice fabric. So yeah, I'm super happy with it. Sweater is done. Then I also finished my Come What May shawl by Susan B. Anderson. And it looks like this. So you can see it has lace, it has eyelets, it has stockinette. And this was knit in a Portuguese yarn from G. And it is 70% Angora, 30% nylon from Tricot Brancal, which is a Portuguese brand. Last week I was up to the stitch marker, which is here, I think. Yeah. And then I did another lace section. And then you're supposed to do a ruffled edge with eyelets, and I don't like ruffles. So from there on, I just completely changed the pattern, and I wrote everything down in my project notes so you can look it up. But essentially I just did more eyelets, and then I increased again, and then I did a garter edge because I didn't want it to roll. So I think this has turned out quite nicely. It is very soft. I'll just put it on very quickly now. Yeah, I quite like it on me. That this will very likely be a Christmas present for my grandma. And the reason why I love giving knitted things to my grandma is that she's the one who taught me to knit. And like when I was small, she was the one where I'd go to and say, "Grandma, I'd really like some socks, and I want them to be strapped in purple and pink." And she would make me purple and pink socks. So she taught me how to knit, and I think I mentioned this before, that she had a stroke in the beginning of the year. I think it was like exactly 10 months ago. And she's feeling much better now, but still, it's very hard. And I gave her another hand-knit shawl for her birthday, and she wears it all the time. Like every time I visit them, she's wearing it. And the other day my grandpa took me to the side and said, "Don't think that we always just give it to her when you're coming over, but she actually wears this scarf every day, or like this shawl." So I think that makes my grandma super, super knit worthy. And she actually remembers that I made it for her as well. And because she used to be a knitter, she can really appreciate like lace or, you know, complicated patterns. So I think she's the most knit worthy person in my family. So yeah, she will get this very nice, luxurious yarn with mohair, Angora, sorry, for Christmas. Then last week I showed you my sock, my Hermione's Everyday sock, which I have now finished. So this is the first time I'm knitting Hermione's Everyday socks, which is a textured pattern on Ravelry. It's a free pattern. And I just kind of took the textured pattern and I did my usual standard sock recipe for the rest. So I did a 1x1 twisted rib. I did a fish lips kiss heel. And I did a rounded toe. So I finished the first one. And I finished the second one. Ta-da! Sorry, I don't know why I'm doing sound effects today. I think I'm honestly a bit crazy. So I finished these socks. I think it's just the light. They look different, but yeah, they have crazy pooling, which I absolutely love. I think they are fantastic. And what else is there to say? I finished it yesterday. I finished it last night, and I was counting how many, I was counting the repeats of the pattern rather than the stitches. And I was sure I had to do like another repeat, so another 4 rows, and I held them next to each other, and it completely didn't make sense. Like, it looked like I had already knit way too far, like past the point where I should have done the toe. So I kind of went insane, and I counted the rows, and I counted the patterns, and I don't know what happened. And then in the end I figured if I just start the toe now and leave out 1 row and so on, it'll turn out alright. So I finished the toe, and I was very, very anxious that I would have 2 completely different socks in the end, but they're actually perfect. So whatever miscalculations I had made before, I think I fixed them. They're the same length. So I'm very, very relieved about that. And these were knit on 2.25mm needles. And I love this yarn. This yarn is by Drachenwolle. It is a German brand, again, because I always use German brands. And somehow it doesn't have a colorway name, which is weird. But I really can only recommend this yarn because it is quite sturdy, but at the same time really soft, and it has like a shine to it. I know I already enabled 1 person to buy some, and yeah, I can honestly only recommend the yarn. So that is finished object number 3. Works in progress. I almost had a finished object number 4. I actually thought about finishing it before podcasting, just for the sake of finishing it. But then I figured that, you guys won't mind. But this is a hat that I'm knitting out of this yarn. This yarn is also Portuguese yarn from G. It is Rosario's 4 in the Alpine line, colorway 9. And I decided to make a hat for my dad for Christmas. Yeah, suddenly I got into Christmas knitting. So yeah, the yarn isn't really showing up, unfortunately. It is really, really beautiful. It is like really dark grayish blue, and then it has this flecks of turquoise. Yeah, it's not really coming out as beautiful as it is, but it's really, really pretty, and I'm almost finished with the decreases, so I could have easily finished it this morning. But this will be a hat for my dad. I've never knit him anything. I'm not sure how he feels about getting a hand knit hat, but I think he'll like it because he has a hand knit hat from my cousin. And honestly, it's not a very nice hat, so I feel like if he wears that, he'll wear a nice one as well. I might actually try it on for you guys. Ruin my hair. So this is what it looks like. Yeah, you can see it like that. So I did a knit 1, purl 2 twisted rib, and then just a stockinette body. And I really, really like how this yarn is coming out. Like, I think I underestimated how nice this yarn would be when I first got it, but it's really, really nice. And I haven't told you guys, but I'm going on a skiing trip with my family in February. So we're going skiing as a family for 5 days, and my dad doesn't actually ski anymore, so he usually goes on long walks, so I figured a hat would be perfect for that. And this is like, I think, bulky weight, so I think that'll keep him nice and warm. So this hat is being knit on 6mm needles. Then I have one more work in progress. I feel like I'm all over the place today. And look at my bag. It's a Christmas bag. I talk about Christmas. I know I mention Christmas a lot, and I'm very excited because it's really the only holiday in the year that we really celebrate. And I just wanted to say to those of you who don't celebrate Christmas, I hope you don't mind that. I'm not always very sensitive that some people might not be excited about Christmas or might celebrate Hanukkah or something else. I hope that's okay. But yeah, this is not a real project bag. This is the bag that I got from my mom for Nicholas, and she put like nuts and mandarins and chocolates and stuff in here. And I just decided to reuse it as a project bag. It's only flowers that you can't close it anyway. But it's really Christmassy and has red lining. So yeah, I really like it. And in this bag, which is way too small for this project, I have a new shawl. So I've been wanting to knit 2 colored shawls for a while because, for one, I find that shawls that take 2 skeins of fingering weight yarn are nice and big. And also I like combining colors lately. So I decided to combine these 2 colors. The gray is Cascade Heritage in the charcoal colorway, and the red is a German brand. This is Zauberwiese. And this is their soft merino silk, I think, which is 75% merino, 25% silk. And as you can see, it is very Christmassy. It's like red with hints of silver, gray, and gold. So I think these go together really well. My ball winder, which you can actually see here, it had the biggest fit with these. I think it took me over an hour to wind both of these, and I had to rewind them, and it was ridiculous. I don't know what happened with my ball winder. But yeah, these are my yarns. And what I'm knitting is the shawl called Stella Luna. I've got my little needle stopper on here, which is really cute. But I might take it off now. And the Stella Luna, I'm not sure who the designer is, I'm so sorry about that. But it is this 2-colored shawl which kind of shapes out like a star. You can't really see it yet because I'm at the beginning. But what you can see is that there's like stockinette parts in the main color, which is a red. And you do like decreases in the middle and increases in the sides. And then there's a lace section. So you basically keep going now, like I'll do another red stockinette section and another lace section and so on. And I really like the look of this shawl. Like the finished objects look really, really great. And I'm using my Adilace circular needles in 3.5mm, which is what I always use for fingering weight shawls. And I actually started this project on my Knit Pro interchangeable needles because I wanted to give them another shot. But again, I didn't enjoy them at all. They kind of felt sticky, and I found it hard to, keep my attention right and so on. So as soon as I finished my other shawl, I switched back to my Adilace, and now I'm in knitting heaven, and it works really well. So honestly, I think these are my favorite needles. I love them so much. With this pattern, you can do either 5 sections, which is what I did to save some yardage, or you can do 6 sections, like one section is like one of these. So if you do 6 sections, you'll have less of a straight edge and more of like I don't know, what is that, like a 3/4 circle shape. So I'm doing 5 sections, and that should give me enough yardage. And there is an option to do a longer lace edge at the bottom, which I think would look really nice. So I really hope I'll have enough motivation to do that in the end. But yeah, I'm really, really happy with this project. So these are all my works in progress. I have one project lined up right now, which I'll show you very quickly. Is of course, one must always be knitting socks. So yesterday I wound up what I call my Christmas yarn. It is not necessarily a Christmas colorway, but for me this is Christmas because it has glitter and it has like reds and orange, like pinks and orange and green. So for me this is my Christmas yarn for this year. And let me just check. It is 75% merino, 20% nylon, 5% silver stellina. It's a one-of-a-kind, only do one thing at a time. It's a one-of-a-kind skein. It's 400 meter sock yarn by Knitting in France, which is a French indie dyer who is a French indie dyer who has an Etsy store, and she's really lovely and she has really nice yarns. So I got this on her Black Friday sale a few weeks back, and I am very, very happy to cast this on. So yes, that's all of my knitting. So now I'll move on to sewing. I have done some sewing this week. First of all, I finally finished, I'm not sure if I finished it, but I think I showed you this before I quilted it. I want this to be like, in German we call it table runner. I always forget to look it up what the English word would be, if you can even translate table runner. But it's like a thing that you can put on the dining table, either like in the middle, or you could put it at the side and put like, you know, flowers or something. So it's just a little decoration. And these are just some scraps from jelly rolls that I had, and I have quilted them onto this leftover white fleece, which you won't see anyways because it's going to be on the bottom. And I've done like a sort of like a wavy quilting pattern, which is not showing up here. Yeah, you can kind of see. So I'm not sure if I'm going to bind it or if I'm just going to leave it like that. I kind of like the look that it has right now, but then I'm not sure if it looks too untidy. What do you guys think? Let me know. But yeah, this will be part of my mom's Christmas present. But that's not all. I also sewed these two little cute bags. Oops. There you go. So these are both little project bags or cosmetic bags or whatever you want to use them for. One has a bird on here and the other one has a little elephant. And I call them my twin bags because the red one has this on the inside and the one with the Russian dolls has the white one on the inside. So I think both of these will go to my sisters for Christmas, so I can put their other Christmas gifts inside, and I think they're really cute. And one of my sisters, she crochets and knits and sews, so she might use it as a project bag, and or they could always just use it for like, cosmetics or, you know, like a little purse, like for whatever, you know, loose ends you have in your bag. So yeah, I hope they like them. That's my sewing for the week. Let me have some tea. Now on to spinning. I think what I'll do is I'll first show you what I've been spinning, and then I'll do the segment about spinning in general. So I finished my All About Yarn fiber. This was a Blueface Leicester braid from All About Yarn, who has an Etsy store and a podcast, which is really funny actually. I really like it. And what was I saying? I spun this BFL braid into relatively thin singles and did a two-ply. And it turned out like this, and I really, really like it. It was funny because when you looked at the braid before, it just looked like black and pink. But now you can see there's like grays and there's purples and light pinks and all sorts of colors in here. It's a bit of blue. So yeah, I think this is really awesome. I really like it, and this is 100 grams. So that's quite a bit of yarn that I can use for a nice project. So then this week I've started spinning my rollers from Sarah's Texture Craft. I'll just take one out. Oops. Looks kind of funny because I filmed this before and did something. But this is what they look like. They are Merino and Stellina. It's called Oceanic, Merino and Sparkle 50 grams. So they have like turquoise, blue, a little bit of purple, grey and so on. So I think they're quite pretty. And I've started spinning them up. I haven't gone very far. But this is what it looks like so far. So yeah. Now, I'll just do a segment about spinning. And just a disclaimer, I'm not a professional spinner and I don't feel like I'm an expert on this, so if I do say something wrong, please don't be offended. But it's just that a lot of people have been inspired to start spinning, which makes me so happy. And a bunch of people have been asking me questions, so I felt like it just made sense to I just want to share how I started spinning and, share what I think you might want to, keep in mind when you start. So I just do that. So you need two things when you start spinning. You need a spindle and you need fiber. I have a bottom hole spindle, which means that this big part is at the bottom. So when I spin, I don't have to spin like the opposite of a bottom hole is a top hole spindle that has the big thing up here, and then you wind your yarn underneath it. And I think both spindles are fine if you're trying spinning for the first time, but I really enjoy this one, or I enjoy this kind of spindle. And what I would definitely recommend is that you get a spindle that has a hook at the top. I know you don't necessarily need it, like the ones that don't have a hook have a little ridge here and you just wind around there and it works just fine. But especially for a beginner, I think there are plenty of spindles that have a hook and it just makes it a little bit easier. Also, my spindle came with a instruction sheet, and it said that you need to take a thread, like before you start spinning, fix a thread onto here and thread it up here and then spin onto that, and like just to get started. But when I watch YouTube videos, I found out that that's completely unnecessary. So if I want to start spinning, I just take a bit of fiber, draft it out, make a loop, and start spinning, and that's it. So again, for that, the hook is really nice. I have a medium weight one. Beginner spindles tend to be quite heavy, I think, which makes it easier, but then, I think you're more limited. So I purposely chose a medium one because I like to spin thin yarns. And even though this is a pretty beginner spindle, I've been spinning on this for half a year and I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a beginner anymore. And this still works perfectly for me. I know some people like really small spindles, but remember that if it's really small, it won't hold a lot of yarn. So with this, when I do 100 grams of fiber, I usually spin 50 and then wind them onto my ball winder and then do the rest. Once, like when I used to spin thicker, I even got like 80 or 100 grams onto one spindle. So I really like the fact that my spindle holds quite a bit of fiber. So the other thing you need obviously is fiber. Now there's different ways of fiber. There's braids. Braids look like this. So this is a Polworth one, but essentially all braids, you open them up, which I won't do today. And then you have like a very, very long string of fiber, and usually the braids are prepped the way that all the fibers relatively go in the same direction. So that will give you a worsted spin. That all the fibers will align, basically, and you can either just, you know, spin from the braid, or you can separate it into like pieces, or you can separate it and draft, like pre-draft it before you spin it. But yeah, this is very common. This is what I like to spin. Then there are row legs. So row legs are like this. And now you see why it's looking funny, because before I already demonstrated you can draft those row legs out. And you can see that these row legs, they have like the fiber goes like this. So when you draft it, you can see that there is lots of air in the middle. And because they've been rolled up like this fiber goes into all kinds of directions. So this is what we call a woolen spin. If it's woolen, it means that the fiber goes into different directions, and that makes the yarn more puffy and squishy. It may feel a little bit thicker, but it's essentially just it has more of a halo, and the fibers are going everywhere, and it might be more cozy. So it might be a good choice for like a bulky hat or something. You might like a woolly spin. But there's like heaps more options for fiber than just braids and row legs, but I think they are the most common. If you want to start spinning, I would recommend that you get fiber that is not necessarily blended. Like, I think personally I would recommend that you don't get a fiber blend with silk and stellina and everything all at once, because it's harder to draft. But just get like a merino. Get something simple. I wouldn't even, I can see a lot of people, they get like braids. They get fancy braids and then they start spinning. And maybe you guys are more talented than me, but I wouldn't have been able to get anything out of my money's worth of like nice braids in the beginning. So what I would recommend is to get some cheap fiber and leave your braids to look pretty until you have some kind of idea of how you spin. So what I got a ridiculous amount of cheap fiber. Because honestly, to learn spinning, you don't need fancy yarn. You definitely, I wouldn't even recommend, you know, starting with art bats or anything. So what I got a lot of, you know, just like simple fiber. All of this was really cheap, maybe like 100 grams for like 3 or 4 euros. So for example, I got this one. This is a 100 gram Corriedale. And it just comes like this. And this might not be the most attractive thing to spin, but it gives you really, really good practice. And the other stuff that I got was, I got colored ones like this. Again, this isn't hand dyed, but this is just a merino. It will be easy to draft. The color should keep your interest, and again, you don't waste your money. So now, before you start spinning, I would recommend that you start playing with your yarn. So you have fiber, so you could separate it into different braids, and then you could even, or I would recommend you start pre-drafting it, just so you get a feel for what it feels like to take apart the fiber. You know, you can see how thin you can draft it, you can see the staple length, and you can see you can pull it out quite a bit. You don't need to draft it this thin, unless you want to spin really thin yarn, but just get a feel for how the fiber feels before you even start spinning. Because honestly, once you start spinning, you have to control your hand, you have to figure out drafting, you have to figure twisting, and it's a lot of things to be doing at one time. So I would really recommend to take it slow, practice drafting, and then take your spindle. For spinning, I think I don't have the perfect technique, but I think for me what works really well is I kind of draft out fiber. I would definitely fail at showing this to you now. And then I just give it a tight spin. And you can see it spinning. And then you can draft out more. And more. And because I'm really spinning thin, it keeps on spinning, it doesn't stop. and more, and more. Usually I would keep going like this, but you get the idea. You can have a look if it's, maybe you've spun it a bit too tight, and if you have, just give it a little bit more fiber. And when you're happy with the result, you just wind it onto your spindle. That's basically all it is. And I've realized this probably looks a lot easier now than it really is. But yeah, just take your time. And when you're not experienced with spinning, what I would recommend is that you don't spin and draft at the same time, but rather you draft a little bit, and you spin it, and then you pause it, like you put it on your, like I just put it on my knee here, so it doesn't spin anymore, and then you draft it more, and so on. Because that's easier than just spinning and drafting as you go. Just to give you an idea. So essentially, that's all you do. And then you just do that for a lot of hours, and then in the end you have yarn. So that's it about spinning and fiber and spindle. Very quickly, I want to touch the subject of plying. A lot of beginners, I think, they're scared of plying because, I mean, spinning itself is really complicated, so for me the same. The first thing I thought was like, oh, okay, spinning is so complicated, I don't think I'll ply. But honestly, plying is the easiest thing. Plying is the easy part. And I would recommend you ply, especially in the beginning, because in the beginning, your singles aren't going to be perfect and they're going to be inconsistent. And plying gives you the nicest way to make your yarn more consistent, more pretty, and yeah, it'll just look more professional, I think. To give you an example, I've brought along, this is, what is that? I think it's just merino. It's a single ply, so it hasn't been plied. And you can see it's thick and thin, and especially, the thick parts, they are looser because, the twist only spreads evenly when you're spinning consistently. So I think this looks quite nice, but you can see that it is quite uneven, I guess. But here, I've plied it. This fiber is not as pretty, but here I've plied it, and I would have spun at least like just as inconsistent with this one. But with a 2-ply, you tend to spin, like the chances that you spin a thick bit with a thin bit are pretty high, so that just evens it all out. It also controls the twist a lot better, because it's very hard to spin your singles without over or under twisting it. So this is what a 2-ply looks like. Also, what you can do in the beginning is you could ply with a thread or another yarn, which is what I've done here. So the blue is what I've spun, and then I've plied it with a gray lace yarn. And it gives me that sort of curly look. And because I like when you ply a yarn with itself, when you do a 2-ply, you only have half the yardage or meterage. And if you do a chain ply or 3-ply, you only have a third of the yardage. So this way, I have maintained all of my yardage because I didn't ply it with itself, but I plied it with a commercial yarn. And it can give you quite a nice effect, I think, especially because in the beginning, you're gonna be spinning pretty thick. If you ply it with itself, you'll have such tiny yardage that you might not have anything that you can knit with it. So I think this is another valid option. So here you can see the 3 next to each other, the singles, the 2-ply, and the ply with a commercial yarn. And then if you compare that, you compare this 2-ply to this one, which is my most recent, you can see that my spinning got a lot thinner now. So you just need to give it some time, and it'll work out. So 2-plying is my favorite method of plying, because like I said, it evens out all the inconsistencies. And essentially it is super easy. You just take 2 strands of singles and you twist the opposite way. So usually spinning, you spin clockwise. I think that's called Z-wise or Z-wise. And then when you ply, you just do it the other way around. and you don't necessarily always have to spin your singles always and so on, but just make sure it's the other way. And you just spin it, and that's it. That's how easy plying is. So yes, I can definitely recommend that. With chain plying, it looks really pretty, but that gives you a 3-ply, and what happens with chain plying is that you ply the yarn on itself rather than using 2 strands. So that means that the thick bits are going to be plied with another thick bit, and the thin parts are going to be plied with another thin part. So that makes your inconsistencies even more visible. So I am very, very paranoid about having a consistent yarn, so if you're the same, I would not recommend chain plying until you're really good at spinning. So I hope that gave you a little bit of an idea. If you have any questions, please do let me know. If I said something wrong, I'm really sorry. I just wanted to give you an idea of how I started spinning, and honestly, it is all about practice. Like, there's no way around it. You just need to take your time and trust that you'll get better. I really liked having cheap yarn to play with because, like I said, nothing went to waste. It's fine. Whereas now, when I spin and sometimes the yarn doesn't come out as I wanted to, I always feel kind of bad and I pressure myself because I feel like the fiber is so nice, it has to be perfect. But I'm that way even with like yarn. Like, I notice when I have expensive yarn, I get frustrated because I want to make the perfect project with it, and then sometimes I don't, and sometimes I don't even knit with my really nice yarn because I feel like I can't do it justice, so maybe that's just me. But yeah, so I think I'll stop talking about spinning now. Like I said, correct me if I'm wrong. I hope you find that kind of interesting. I will now move on to acquisitions. I'll have a sip of my tea first. Very quickly, I forgot to show you last week what I got from my mom. It's really cute. I got little sheepies. I love sheep. And they are magnets. So I think they are really, really, really cute. And they come in really handy because in our living room, which is where I'm sitting right now, no, we do not only have a huge pig, we also have a whiteboard. So we have like a huge whiteboard where you can, write on with markers, and then you can wipe it off. And the reason why we have that is because this used to be my boyfriend's apartment and he used to work from here. So they used it for our business, but now we just use it for fun, and it is magnetic. So we have lots of magnets and we pin stuff to it. So now I have little sheepy magnets, and I think they're adorable. So I got this from my mom, and then I also got a little package from Denise. And she is just amazing. She said the other day, hang on, let me clean up, that she made some needle cozies. And the needle cozies that she made fit the bag. So this is one of the bags that you can win for the challenge Knit Along. And she made me 2 really cute needle cozies. So you can use these for when you're knitting socks. I wanted to show you, but then I finished my socks, so I can't. But basically, you just, when you have your socks on DP-ends, you just open it up and put the DP-ends in there, and then you close it, and you can't lose your stitches, and you will not, ruin your project bags because there's no needles picking out. And I'm a big person for losing my needles, so this is really, really handy. So thank you so much, Denise. And that wasn't all. She sent me a little surprise. So first of all, she sent me the cutest little sheep card. Like I said, I love sheep. Then she sent me Christmas chocolates, which I have been really good and I haven't opened them. And then the cutest surprise. She sent me little progress keepers with mittens. I love these so much. I think they're so cute. And I will probably start using them today. They are just adorable. So thank you so much, Denise. That was a very, very lovely surprise. The only other acquisition that I have is actually in one of my DPN holders, because they are perfect for storing your needles as well. So I got some needles. I got DPNs. These are the carbons from KnitPro. They are 2.25 millimeters and they're the 15 centimeter long ones. And I have been thinking about getting these, but I was worried because I have 2 sets of KnitPro needles. I have the sinks, which are fine, and then I have the interchangeable set, which I hate. So I wasn't too sure. I was worried about the joints. But then in a week, I think 3 podcasters talked about these and I loved them, especially Isabel from Fluffy Fibers, who I trust very much. She said that hers are great and you can't feel the joints, so I was like, okay, I'll get them, fine. Because I really wanted some needles that have good tips. That's the only thing I miss with my zings. So I got these, and I must say I'm pretty disappointed. The tips are really good, but I can feel the joint. I think it has to do with how you knit, but I knit continental, and especially with socks, on my right needles, I push my stitches up and down when I knit, and every time they get caught. So while I love these for the tips, I'm quite disappointed. I tried using like those nail polishing files that I have, like really soft files. I tried to make it a bit better and I think it's improved, but I'm still pretty disappointed. But I can't give them back because it's KnitPro, and KnitPro prints on their needle sizes. And as you can see, it's pretty much gone. Because when you knit like 5 rows with the KnitPro needles, the sizes come off. So I don't think I can give them back. But I'm willing to give them another shot, and maybe I'll get used to them. So far I don't know. I'm not convinced. But we'll see. But that was my only acquisition for this week. So yeah, that's that. Now, the only thing that's left to talk about is live. So if you're not interested in that, don't worry, that's fine. Just go and I won't be offended. But if you do want to stick around, there's actually not that much to talk about. I've had a pretty good week. I know that 3 episodes ago, I was pretty down, but I'm feeling much better now and everything's going really well. And I think part of it has to do with that I'm really excited for Christmas. So Christmas is in 10 days, which is crazy. So this is like the last real work week, and then next week my boyfriend and I are planning to already chill out a bit. And I might go down to my parents' house a bit earlier to help out. And then our Christmas plans are finally set, so we'll spend Christmas Eve and and Boxing Day, I think, 25th. We'll spend with my family, and then we'll drive up to the north of Germany and spend a few days with my boyfriend's family. That's exactly what we did last year. And then we'll quickly stop over here, and then we'll go to the south of Germany, where we'll spend a few days, just the 2 of us, just relaxing, having a little holiday, because luckily his parents have a little holiday home apartment in the Alps, or like not full-on Alps, but you know, there's hills, there's snow, and it's very Bavarian. And yeah, we went there last year. It was really fun, and I'm planning to take lots of knitting, and yeah. So I'm pretty excited about all of that. Then last week we had a Christmas dinner for my boyfriend's work. So he has his own firm together with a partner. So we went out for dinner with his partner and his girlfriend. His partner's girlfriend. Oh, well, whatever. And anyways, the 4 of us went out for dinner to this really nice Italian restaurant, which was kind of fancy, but then not like super fancy. And we had a really nice night. And it felt good to, dress up a bit and be social. And besides that, just really been embracing Christmas and going to the Christmas markets. Yesterday my boyfriend worked on Sunday. He works a lot of weekends. So that meant that I cuddled up with my BJs all day and did some knitting and sewing and spinning, and yeah, we've been having a good time. We've been watching the series 24, which I think is quite old now. And there's like a million seasons. And we just finished season 2, and every time we finish a season, I'm like, I don't want to watch another season, but then we start and we get drawn in. And it's essentially a show that has, like, each season has 24 episodes, and each episode covers 1 hour in real time. It's kind of like a crime show. I think it's not the best show that I've ever seen, but it's quite entertaining, and it's kind of nice to have a slow show, because lots of crime shows, I feel like they cover so much stuff in so little time. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but yeah, we've been watching that, and yeah, just Christmas spirit. I've been eating so much chocolate, and my mom makes Stollen. I'm not sure if that exists in English. It's like a Christmas sort of bread with like raisins and little pieces and nuts, and it's so good. And I'm the only one who eats it. My boyfriend doesn't like it, and I got the whole thing was like this long, and I've pretty much eaten all of like this much is left. So yes, I've been eating like a crazy person. We've both just decided to, yeah, whatever, we're just going to get fat and eat chocolate. So yeah, that's really, really fun. I'm still trying to cut back on coffee. In fact, I haven't had any yesterday, but I want some today. I really, really love coffee. And yeah, now I'm just blathering on. So I think I'll just say goodbye. Places you can find me on Instagram as The Happy Knitting Podcast. You can find me on Ravelry as Wupfi, which is Wuepfi. And we have a Ravelry group, which is called The Happy Knitting Podcast group. And you can find that in the forums or group tabs. What else? Don't forget to enter your finished objects in the chatter thread. Also, if you do join the group, which I would love, I love to hear you guys when you introduce yourself, because that just gives me a better idea of the people who are actually sitting there and watching me right now, which is kind of weird to think about. And I post the show notes in the Ravelry group as well. I've kind of started to just link to my projects, because I feel like it's unnecessary for me to write out all the needle sizes and everything every single time. If you can just click on the button and the needles will be listed there, as well as like if I talk about things that I change or the patterns that when I do any modifications, I always write it down, so you can just look it up there. So yeah, I would love to hear from you guys. I feel like I say this every week, but honestly, I really do love hearing from you guys. So every time I get the little message thing on Ravelry, I get excited, or when people message me on Instagram, or yeah, I love hearing from you guys, and I love seeing you participate in the threads on Ravelry, and yeah, just, I don't know, it's just nice. Like, it's nice to hear that other people have the same problems with the temptations of buying yarn, or to see what you guys are working on, or what you like, what you don't like. I really like interacting with you guys. So now I just hope that you guys have a wonderful week. Today is Monday. I will definitely record next week, so this is not my Christmas episode. Maybe I'll have to think about something Christmassy to do next week. I have some ideas. But yeah, I hope that Christmas isn't stressing you guys out too much. I hope that you're still enjoying knitting and not in a state of needing to finish Christmas presents and running late and freaking out. So yeah, have a great week. And I'll see you next week. Bye bye.